Welcome back to Talk Show, where we catalog the disasters that nobody asked for. It's Sunday, May 24th. It's day 85 of Trump's war. This past week, AOC brought jars of brown water to Congress. We'll explain. Those are a little gift from Meta. Trump called U.S. democracy corrupt on camera, but nobody noticed. I'll explain a little bit in just a second. And 155,000 people have been fired over time here for AI. And those companies got less profitable. Let's defrost this freezer. In our first segment, let's talk about AOC and her magic water jars. On Thursday, House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee hearing is happening. AOC pulls out 2 jars of brown water from Morgan County, Georgia. Let's play the clip.
So a few weeks ago, while Congress was in recess, I visited Morgan County, Georgia, where Meta is building a massive data center campus. They are clear-cutting forests and began heavy construction, including explosive blasting. And families in the area are starting to see not only their water pressure decrease, to your point about water availability, but their appliances have all stopped working because it is decimating their water quality. They now rely on bottled water to drink and prepare meals, and nearby residents' water bills are expected to increase by 33%. In fact, I have a jar right here. This is the current drinking water in Morgan County, Georgia.
Jesus.
Right after a data center was constructed, the Meta data center was constructed. The only difference between the clean water and this was that data center.
Okay, I'm not going to play the whole clip here, but that jar looks like apple cider vinegar. Now, blessedly, the EPA assistant administrator who saw this, a woman named Jessica Kramer, she said she didn't have any complaints about this, but when she saw the jars, she reacted and she said, as soon as I get back to the office, I'll be looking into exactly what you've just talked about. Now, just as an FYI, the Meta data center that's in Morgan County uses 10% of the daily water supply. Residents are seeing, things like appliance failures, failing water pressure. The drinking water is now brown. Utility bills could also rise by 33%. And some of the more severe projections are saying that Morgan County might have a complete water deficit by 2030. Don't forget, y'all, Trump administration issued an executive order in July that streamlined data center permitting. Also, earlier this month, May 11th, the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin proposed allowing pre-construction activities before final environmental permits are approved. Add on to that, the EPA said that there's no impact to human health or the environment. And meanwhile, Morgan County residents are saying their water's brown. Thankfully, Bernie and AOC have introduced a bill to pause new data center constructions until we can properly review the environmental impact. But at the same time, the tech pack leading the future, backed by Palantir, is spending $100 million or more to guide the 2026 midterms to elect pro-AI lawmakers. Yeah, that's all happening right now. What's the goal? A single federal AI regulation that overrides state restrictions. Data centers need lots of water, folks, lots of it for cooling, and in return, communities get brown water. Hooray! In our second story, let's talk about Trump's democracy comments. So, this past week, Trump called the U.S. democracy and elections corrupt on camera. But nobody was paying attention to that. Let's play this clip.
The DNC released a report this morning, their report on the last election on why you won and Democrats lost. One thing that it mentions is how they failed to reach Middle America, Southern Americans. Do you think they've learned lessons from that election, and have you seen that report?
I think the elections are so rigged, and we have to do something about it, and we're going to do something about it, but we cannot continue to have, and frankly, the Senate and the House, they ought to get together and they ought to pass the Save America Act so that you have voter ID and it's...
Yeah. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Did you see what I saw? Because I could not focus on the man's words. The beached whale standing behind him at the desk here. Look at the size of that sphere. Goodness gracious. The funniest comment I saw is someone on Reddit legitimately thought it was a pregnant woman with an Audi standing in the background. Anyways, back to the point. Trump and the gang are going to do all the naughty things they can to try to rig the midterm elections. This is him essentially saying what they're going to do, right? every single lie is an admission on their own part. All right, folks, come on down to world news in a minute. The Iran war update is Pentagon cost has been released. It's $28 billion of your taxpayer money. Supreme Court has allowed the Triumphal Arch, a hideous gold monstrosity straight out of Trump's nightmares. That was approved 6-3. And unfortunately, the Vietnam veterans lawsuit that I mentioned in a previous episode has been dismissed. Boeing, the third 737 MAX incident has happened this past month. This time it was a door plug issue. Now the FAA is investigating, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. Whereas everyone on a Boeing plane should absolutely be holding their breath. Rory McIlroy won the Masters, and it is his first major win since 2014. China, the soybean deal is still not finalized. Interestingly enough, 25 million metric tons were promised, but nothing in writing. And here we are, folks. It's Memorial Day. Wowie. Hope you're going to have a blast of a weekend. 40 million people are traveling, and gas is over $4.30 at a 4-year high. That's your world, folks. Still breaking. In our main story, let's talk a little bit about AI layoffs. Over 155,000 people have been laid off across 33 different companies from 2023 all the way through to Q1 of 2026. It all kind of sold the same story. It said AI is going to do your job better, we'll be leaner, we'll be stronger, we'll be more profitable. Then brilliant someone, analyzed 1,000 SEC filings, 71 earnings call transcripts, and then built a data set. The results, you might ask, companies that bought AI and fired people got less profitable. Ouchies. Companies that sell AI infrastructure got more profitable. That's interesting. But that's it. That's the whole story. Now let's share some of the receipts, shall we? Operating margins are really sort of the test that matters. Let's talk about PayPal. Down 1.8%. They would have been more profitable just doing nothing. Pinterest, down 34 points. That's borderline collapse. Intel, down to negative 23.1% margins. And by the way, they fired 38,800 people. Cognizant, down 1.1 points. HP, down 1 point. Meta, revenue plus 33, but margin dropped from 41.5% to 40.6%. The AI infrastructure costs essentially ate the savings. Block, revenue strong enough for a 74% jump in revenue per employee, but they still went from a positive to negative net margin. Every company where margins improved essentially sells AI. So Alphabet, plus 2 points. Salesforce, plus 2. Oracle, plus 1. Microsoft, a little more than a half a point. The list continues. What's the pattern here? There's a perfect correlation. If you sell AI, your margins are going to improve. If you buy AI, your margins are going to decline. The buyers paid for savings that they never received. The sellers recorded those payments as revenue. Now, at the same time of all these fun things, CapEx exploded. Google blew $75 billion on CapEx. Meta is going to spend between $125 and $145 billion. Microsoft is spending $31.9 billion per quarter. Combined across all these different companies, the spend on AI is approaching $640 billion. So this is really more of a wealth extraction. Think about it this way. Corporate profits, $4 trillion. Tech jobs cut in total 250,000. At the same time, though, women are 25% or more of tech employees, but they were 45 to 47% of the layoffs. To me, that seems like the social contract getting a bit of a shred. Okay, here we are, day 85 of Trump's war. Meta pollutes the water, Trump undermines democracy, AI layoffs enrich the vendors, and unreliable car companies are partnering up. Just a normal week. If you learned something, I'm sorry. If you didn't, congrats, you're coping correctly. I'm Tino. This was Talk Show. We actually won't see you next week. Proud to say this was episode 38. We've had an incredible run so far. We're going to take a couple of weeks off. It's the middle of the summer, and I think I've just done 12 or 15 weeks of this in a row and just need a quick breather. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.